pleasure being here, and it's a pleasure to stand by my husband's side throughout this journey. As you know, my husband and I, we come from different backgrounds. I was born in Venezuela, and my family migrated here in 1995. It was in Montreal that I was raised. And my father, he had to trade his business suit and his job as a bank manager to come here, wear secondhand clothes, and pick up strawberries, because that's what he had to do to feed his family. So my story is not a unique story. It is the story of many immigrants that come here for better opportunities. My husband's story is a little different. He was born from a teenage mother that was 16 years old, and she gave Pierre out for adoption to 2 school teachers from Saskatchewan. We are both, however, raised with the same values, the values of hard work, and our families living the same way, growing up paycheck to paycheck. So we understand that, you know, simple things like common sense things like filling your tank of gas, it is not a luxury. It is a way of transportation, and it's how you do your work. So it's time for us to bring the common sense back, and I'm very proud to stand by my husband's side, because as you know, it is a family business to be together, to do this together, and it comes with great sacrifice. But from the bottom of my heart, it is my pleasure to share with you my husband and our next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you very much, Anna. I almost feel like I don't have to speak after she's done. She does such a great job, and I'm very proud to be with her. She's right, this is a family effort. Much like this business that Deb started and built into 500 vehicles, providing jobs for mechanics, drivers, maintenance workers, and indirectly for farmers and grocers and everyone else that needs the goods that you ship. You know, if you think of the Canadian economy as a human body, truckers would be the lifeblood, right? The blood transfers all of the things that we need throughout the body. And that's what the truck does. This moves the things that we need to live, the materials that go into building a house and shelter our families, the food that ends up on our plates, the heating and cooling systems that keep us alive in our rugged environment. All of these things come to us by truck. Frankly, if you like to eat, if you like your house, if you like to live, you should thank a trucker, because it's truckers that are literally the lifeblood of our economy, traveling through the veins that are our highways. But unfortunately, the body is getting clogged up. The arteries are getting clogged up with taxes and traffic that are slowing us all down. Our infrastructure doesn't keep up. Our highways, which have not being built or expanded, because all the money is going into bureaucracy and waste. And the high taxes that increase the fuel costs that you put into your vehicles. The carbon tax of Justin Trudeau is 14 cents a liter on diesel right now. He wants to raise it to 61 cents a liter. How are you going to fuel these trucks? How are you going to feed your family when the tax goes up to 61 cents a liter? How are you going to heat your home when that tax goes on your natural gas bill as well? The answer is people will have to choose between eating and heating, and that's if they can keep a home at all. After 8 years of Trudeau, housing costs have doubled. The rent has doubled. Mortgage payments have doubled. The needed down payment has doubled. I used to complain that there were 35-year-olds forced to live in their parents' basements, and people would say, wow, that sounds crazy. Now, it's not only normal, it's the least of our problems. Now we're worried that that 35-year-old and his mother are going to be forced to leave the home and live in a tent because mortgage payments are rising so quickly. Some are losing their homes. I met a carpenter in Sault Ste. Marie who lives in a parking lot. He's 42 years old. He's had a job his entire adult life. There was a nurse featured on CTV who lives in her van in Penticton. Seniors now live in their cars in parking lots. People who were housed their entire lives. In Canada, we have 10 cities now in every major metropolitan center. And crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder are common in our streets, as repeat violent offenders are released the same day they're arrested for their latest crime, and vehicles are stolen from our streets, they're put on a ship and sent seamlessly out of our country before midnight. That is Canada after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. But the good news is, Canada was not like this before Trudeau, and it will not be like it after he's gone. We're going to replace the hurt he has caused with the heart of hope Canadians need. So, here's the common sense plan. We're going to bring home lower prices by axing the carbon tax to lower the cost of gas, heat, and groceries. We're going to cap government spending to get rid of the inflationary deficits that have doubled the debt, driven up the inflation, and ballooned interest rates. By balancing the budget, we will allow the Bank of Canada to bring down rates, and there'll be less money bidding up the goods we buy. We'll restore the purchasing power of our money by getting the Bank of Canada back to its core mandate, which is to protect purchasing power with low inflation, not printing money for politicians to spend. We're going to make work pay again in this country. Has anybody heard of a parking meter? You pay to park. There's something called a work meter. It's when you pay to work. It's called the marginal effective tax rate. It's the amount of each dollar you earn that you lose to clawbacks and taxes. If you're a single mom making 60 grand a year with 3 kids and you earn another dollar, you lose 80 cents of that dollar to clawbacks of child benefits, income tax, payroll tax, and gas tax to get to work. That means of her $25 an hour wage, she keeps $5, below minimum wage. We punish work in Canada. That's why so much is driven to be under the table. Black market, people are trying to avoid the government stealing their money. You make it, Trudeau takes it. My common sense plan is to reform the clawbacks and cut income taxes so you bring home more of each dollar you earn, and hard work once again pays off in this country of ours. We need to make this a country that rewards the hard work of newcomers. Right now we have 20,000 immigrant doctors and 32,000 immigrant nurses banned from working in our hospitals because there's no simple way to prove whether they are qualified. In the trades, we have the Red Seal, an exam you take to prove that you're a qualified mechanic, carpenter, engineer. You probably have some Red Seal workers here, but there's nothing for the professions. A Poilievre government's going to work with the provinces to bring in a blue seal for the professions. So immigrant doctors and nurses can take a test, prove they are qualified, and if they are, get to work within 60 days, serving our patients in our hospitals and reducing the wait lines for our people. We're going to bring homes that people can afford. Toronto now has the worst housing bubble in the world, according to UBS. It didn't even rank on the list 8 years ago. But prices have more than doubled under Trudeau in this city. Why? Because we can't get anything built. It takes 7 or 8 years to get a building permit in the GTA. There are tens of thousands of units of housing that are being held up by municipal bureaucracy. And Trudeau's response is to give those bureaucracies more money. Ballooning those more bureaucrats. We don't need more bureaucrats. We need less suits and more boots. So my common sense plan is to say to all the cities, the big governments in those cities, you either boost the number of building permits by 15% per year, or I'm pulling back your federal grants. Those that exceed the 15% target and build more will get a building bonus. You'll incentivize them to speed up and lower the cost of building permits, free up land. I'll sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land so that we can build on that land as well. We'll bring in more immigrants who are skilled builders, who have backgrounds in carpentry, framing, plumbing, and electricians. Those people will help build the homes of the future. We're going to build the millions of new homes we need to put roof overhead. And those homes will be in safe neighborhoods. Catch and release has not worked. What it has allowed is criminals to go free, commit more crime. Do you know that in Vancouver, they had to arrest the same 40 criminals 6,000 times. 6,000 arrests for 40 criminals. It's incredible. It's 150 arrests per criminal per year. Why? Because there's automatic bail. As soon as they're arrested, they're released. The police, when they drive by the criminal, they see a crime, they drive right by. They tell me they have a saying, it's Fido, forget it, drive on. because it's not worth arresting. The criminals laugh at them. They say, I'll be back out on the street in 3 hours. Why bother even arresting? This is Trudeau's catch and release system. I will repeal catch and release and bring jail, not bail, for repeat violent offenders. And we're going to start enforcing the law at our borders. Right now, there's no inspection of the automobiles that are leaving the country. So they steal your car at 10 a.m., it's on a boat by noon, it's somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean by midnight. Right? Because we're not inspecting the cars that get on those boats. And so your stolen car might be somewhere on the other side of the world in the hands of someone that doesn't even know it was stolen. It was just put on a boat and shipped away. We need to stop spending money on this ridiculous gun grab that targets lawful hunters and sport shooters, and instead put the money into border security to keep the illegal guns out and the automobiles in our country. This is common sense. We're going to restore common sense to our country again. We're going to bring back the Canadian promise that brought my wife here, that brought many of you here. A country where it doesn't matter if your name is Chang or Charles, Martin or Mohammed, Patel or Poilievre, Smith or Singh. If you're prepared to work hard, you should be able to achieve anything in this country. A country where hard work brings a powerful paycheck that buys nutritious food and a good house in a safe neighborhood and a free country. That's the common sense of the common people united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poilievre. Now we will be doing a little Q&A. We'll be limiting it to 3 questions. So if anybody in the audience has a question, please raise your hand and get your question answered by the man himself.
For saying, Mr. Poilievre, I love everything you stand for. One thing I wanted to ask, I love how you mentioned, we need to keep building. We need to give municipalities their permits and with the funding we need to continue building. But I think one of the troubles that we're going to run into is, I was just looking last night, the average tradesperson in Canada is a little bit more than 40 years old. I'm a young guy myself, 24 years old. I'd like Canada to keep building and keep growing, but it seems like that labor shortage is going to be an issue. So how can the Conservative government incentivize the younger people, high schoolers, people in college and university to enter the trades? Because the truth is we need skilled labor, and it seems like it's not in trend anymore, and it seems like it's gonna hurt us.
That's a great question. So first of all, for those who didn't hear, the question was how are we going to get the new trades workers to replace the retiring ones? First of all, we need to give the same federal funds for polytechnics and trade schools that we give for universities. It should be equal. Second, we need to bring more materials to our high schools to get our teenagers into the trades. Now, high schools are run provincially. However, the Red Seal Council is a federally run body that creates standards for training and testing in the trades. I want to work with the Red Seal Council to create curriculums that provinces and schools can use for teenagers to do pre-apprenticeships before they even get old enough to start becoming a real apprentice. So we can put that material in the schools, get the young person even doing some co-op before they even graduate, and have a Red Seal approved system to prepare them for a full apprenticeship when they get out of school. Maybe even some of their accredited hours could be done while they're in school to shorten the apprenticeship time frame and get them through to their ticket faster. We need to bring in tax fairness for traveling trades workers. A CEO can write off the cost of his corporate jet, but a pipe fitter that travels from Timmins to Fort Mac to work on a job cannot write off the cost of that trip. That's why Conservatives have put forward the Tax Fairness for Traveling Trades Workers Act that allows that pipe fitter to write off the full cost of food, accommodation, and transportation needed to get from one job site to another. We're going to bring in fairness and respect and parity of esteem for trades to get more of our youth into the fields that move stuff, build stuff, and fix stuff. Thank you. Ms. Court.
you to win the election.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you on immigration.
Yeah.
What is your view on immigration, assimilated immigration, the crisis we have right now, especially if you look at the region of Peel? We have a lot of students that come to make a home here, that want to bring their family here. They come for a better life, but we are hearing every day. I do a lot of criminal law and I do a lot of immigration law. I have to often give documents for bodies that are going back daily, 5 to 10 a day. What is our plan for that? I know I'm asking you on the whim, but what do you think? What are your thoughts?
This is possibly the biggest tragedy that's unfolding on Canadian soil that almost no one is talking about. I hear about it all the time. What's happening is the students are being ripped off. They're giving fake admission letters.
They come here, they don't have housing, so they end up living in squalor. Some are living now under bridges and in tents. They're getting there's human trafficking that goes into it. They're being trafficked, put into gangs, addicted to drugs, dying of overdoses, suicides, murders. This is the absolute chaos that our incompetent federal government has unleashed. What I'm going to bring in is strong enforcement of the rules. One, every letter of admission should be thoroughly vetted before the student is admitted. We need to prove that there's an actual admission to a real college. And then the college should be forced to honor that admission. Now we hear that they're giving letters, and then when the students get here, they're saying, oh, we don't have a spot for them. Yeah, you can add to that.
What I've been thinking is perhaps when we give these admission offers out, we should maybe come up with a program. The first week they arrive, how to assimilate themselves in the Canadian system. Housing, education, what their credit is going to be like, how to get jobs. Perhaps your government could help come up with a program. So when my father tells me when they immigrated, there were programs where people were allowed to go back to school, learn the language, learn the ways of the system. The older community members actually would go out to reach out to people. Now we don't have any of that, so perhaps that could be incentive that the government could start.
Yes, that makes sense, and that's how the private sponsorship of refugees has worked so well for so many generations. There would be a church or a gurdwara, a synagogue that would help the newcomer get integrated in an apartment, write a resume, get the kids to school. Something equivalent could be done to help our international students integrate. But we should ensure that their admission letters are real. We should bring in criminal sanctions for the fraud artists that are swindling them and lying to them. There should be sanctions for colleges that either are fake or are not providing the admissions for the students when they get here that they promised before the student departed for the country. The Federal Immigration Department should be doing a vetting of each case just to make sure that the admission is real and that it's not a case of fraud. We should also ensure that they have housing before they come. Because they come here and there's nowhere for them to live. They end up on the streets. This is not normal real estate. Normally, 10 years ago, you could come without a home and you'd find a place. That's normal. That's normality in Canada. We forget that. Today, there's nowhere to live. So if you come to Canada without a home already reserved for yourself, there's a good chance you're going to be on the street. We need to confirm before an international student arrives here that they actually have a home to live in and the means with which to pay the rent. And if they can't, frankly, they shouldn't come because it's going to end in tragedy and tears. And it breaks my heart to think of the Punjabi family who has a small farm. They mortgaged the farm because of a promise that was made to them by a crooked consultant. And the student comes here and finds out that they have no hope, they were lied to, but now they don't want to tell their parents because they don't want to tell their parents that they've lost the farm because they were ripped off. So what do? They get into gangs, drugs, and they end up dead. This is horrible. We can't allow this in Canada. We can do so much better, and we will. Thank you, Nikki. Any more? Over there.
That is the amount of money is coming from Punjab as this work in the form of fees. Like one student is paying almost $30,000 to $40,000 just for the fees for a college. Do you guarantee that that particular student who is coming to Canada as a student, he will get a permanent residency? Because the last immigration minister, he said that we have more international students in Canada, but we can't guarantee permanent residency to all of them. So should the people sitting in India, they should consider Canada as their future home if they are coming here as a student or no?
Yes, they should. So, as the gentleman earlier said, the gentleman is a tradesman, he said we have an aging workforce. We need younger workers. So if you're an international student, you're going to get, if it's done properly, you go through, you get your degree or your diploma, you're 22 years old, you've got 40 years to contribute to the Canadian workforce. This is exactly the demography we need to bring to the country. However, right now, the system is so screwed up that they can't get a guarantee that they will actually become permanent residents. My rule will be very simple. You come here as a student, you graduate, you work, you follow the law, you're not dependent on the system, you're a net contributor, then you should be able to become a permanent resident. Very similar, very simple. That person who does that is a massive net benefit to the country because they'll have 40 years of work life to contribute to the system before they retire, presumably in their 60s. That's what the international student system should really try to do. Bring people here who get educated, support the education system while they're doing it, but then when they graduate, they launch into a great job in Canada, paying taxes, contributing to the country. That's how we're going to run the system when I'm Prime Minister. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys for all your questions. Now we'll be taking some pictures, so if you guys could please line up to my left-hand side over here, and one by one.